Hey everybody, welcome back to Screwball, a baseball podcast, your home for everything baseball. I'm your host Mike Lepre, here with my co-host Frank White.
Hey, how's it going?
Now we had previously recorded this episode on our normal recording dates, but we decided to re-record this episode due to some big news recently in the last 2 days. We figured the complexity of this episode would be different, considering that Mookie Betts had gotten signed to a massive deal, and the MLB had just announced that the playoffs are going to get extended. So we just went ahead and re-recorded because the topic of this episode is the upcoming free agent class and what the effect this season is going to have on those free agents. So we figured our number one guy that we were going to talk about, Mookie Betts, he's off the market. He's going to be on the Dodgers for the foreseeable future. 12-year deal, quite a bit of money, kind of what we theorized in our original recording. But we're going to get going on this episode now with just a little bit of a revised list. So instead of Mookie Betts being our number one guy, let's go to the next top available outfielder. It would make sense is George Springer. And George Springer is a guy that is probably going to command a lot of money, similar to Mookie Betts. Not quite the Mookie Betts contract, I don't think. But he's a talented guy. He's got great defense, got power. The only problem is he's got a little bit of the injury bug, I think is a little bit with him. And I think that it would be important for him to get maybe away from Houston, get away from the Astros organization. That might help his career. It might help to save face. Overall, I think that he's probably going to go somewhere else. I don't think he'll stay with the Astros. I think it's still a possibility. He could double down and stay with the Astros, maybe take a quote-unquote hometown discount. But overall, I think that Springer's a really valuable outfielder. He's going to command a lot of money, a lot of attention, especially with Betts off the market now. It's really going to probably turn a lot of the eyes to him, which is very good for him. You know, I'd say the top free agent, Frank's going to talk about here in a little bit. I'd say we have another top free agent, but Springer is definitely, in my opinion, him and maybe Marcell Ozuna are top outfield free agents. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Springer's about 30, 31, so he's getting a touch older. Most of these guys are 30, 29, 30. He's 31, I believe 31, going 32.
Mm-hmm.
But he has had a lot of injuries. He's always hurt. He's got some sort of injury, thumb injury, pulled his hamstring, rolled ankle, something.
Mm-hmm.
He's got some sort of a little bit larger injury each year, it seems like. That's going to play a role in, getting him a 5-year deal, something like that with a lot of money. Obviously, Mookie Betts getting signed is going to help him because that shows another outfielder with a massive contract. So it kind of shows the worth of an outfielder. But also that means he's the best, or one of the best outfield free agents left. So he has to get, he's in a good spot for negotiation.
For sure.
Obviously he's been in the playoffs for many years with the Astros. He's been through kind of a bad team rebuild, so that's good to have. But with some of the issues the Astros had, you don't really know how much stats are worth or how much of them actually, have meaning. Maybe his average might be up 15 points.
Yeah.
Better because of some of these things.
It's true.
But with injuries and stuff like that, it's just it's hard to give him a big deal, but he'll still probably get a 3 to 4 year deal. And you could look at teams maybe Boston jumps back in, get rid of Betts for the prospects, now sign Springer for a cheaper deal.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple other teams out there. Maybe a younger team could jump in. Guy, he could help kind of lead them. So we'll see, but he's definitely one of the top free agents for this upcoming offseason.
Yeah, for sure. It's one to watch.
So the first guy I want to talk about on my part of my list here is JT Realmuto. He's 30 years old. So again, he's right on that 30, 31-year-old mark. He's probably the best catcher in MLB. If he's not the number one, he's number 2.
For sure.
Defensively, he's one of the best. Offensively, he's all around. Gap to gap, base hits, high average, got power, could steal some bases. But, defensively, he's great.
Yeah.
Good arm, quick pop time. Framing, he's fantastic. He was good with the Phillies pitching staff last year. The Phillies didn't have good pitching. He was a big part of getting more out of them than they could have. He's a guy. He can easily get a 5, 6, 7 year deal.
Oh yeah.
He could just sign a contract year and just about end his career. See Grandal got his 4-year, 73, 74, 75 million, whatever exactly it was.
Yeah.
But he got a big contract, and I would say Realmuto's better than him. Offensively, he's better all around, and defensively, he's better.
Yeah, I agree.
And then where could he go? I think the Phillies have to re-sign him because they traded away a few good prospects and never really did anything with him.
No.
They never won. If you won, you can kind of be like, okay, we won. We can kind of get rid of them now.
Mm.
But since they didn't win, you kind of have to keep them. So he's got all the, negotiation. He's got all the action his way,
Yeah.
The Phillies really have nothing to stand on. Because you could say, oh, well, we got him for 2 years, but you didn't win with him.
Yeah.
So what was the point of getting him? So, I mean, you can really demand a high price tag for him. I think he's going back to the Phillies, personally. I think he kind of has to. But there's going to be a few other teams that are going to jump involved, jump in. To name a few, Colorado, because they need a catcher.
There's a lot of teams that could use a premier catcher.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm going through my head. There's a lot of teams that you could name off here. I think almost everybody has to be involved.
Yeah.
Maybe not the Yankees.
Or maybe even at this point the Dodgers signing the Betts deal. I mean,
yeah, maybe the Cubs don't. You're not going to be involved. Maybe not the White Sox because Grandal. But just about every other team is going to be involved.
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe the Rays get involved.
That's true.
So there's going to be a lot of teams involved and a lot of teams interested in it. Maybe the Nationals.
Yeah.
Maybe something like that. But I think he has to go back to the Phillies, really.
Yeah.
Because of how much they gave up and how they didn't really win with him at all. So we'll see, but it should be interesting. Maybe even a team like the Reds.
It could be.
Jump in and just keep going at it because they just keep making deals and trading guys and trying to get better. So maybe they go one step farther and go get Real Muto and really just solidify the whole team.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Real Muto is, like you said, or like we said, I think he's a top free agent now without Betts there. I think he's a desirable, having your catcher, having like the guy is something that not a lot of teams have. They have a lot of platoon role catcher, like that kind of like one catching player has kind of like not going by the wayside, but it's rarer than it used to be. But yeah, about 30 years old. You probably look at that Grandal contract, and that's probably like a good benchmark for what you think he's going to get, or he's probably going to eclipse, I think. He should eclipse it. 4 or 5 years, maybe $80 million range, somewhere in that ballpark, I would think. Possible landing spots, I think Phillies make all the sense. You'd want to keep him around. If he has a good year, I think that's all the more the fans probably love him there. I can't imagine you wouldn't, having, top-tier catcher. But yeah, I mean, he's a great player, and I think that he'll probably command most of the attention, him or Springer, like we said. I think he should probably command the majority of it to start. But, yeah, I think the Phillies is a nice landing spot, and I think he'll command a good amount of money.
Yeah, and, you can really look, too, because a couple other teams who could really jump in on this, the Cardinals could jump in. When Molina's contract kind of coming up, and he's getting older, obviously, he kind of stated he kind of wanted to come back for another year or two. But if the Cardinals decide to move on, I mean, there's just, the next best thing you can get defensively and offensively. So he'd be a great guy for the Cardinals to jump on and pick up.
Yeah.
And maybe the Braves.
But yeah,
because they're still not really paying that many guys.
That's true.
Maybe go get him because that's one of the positions that they really don't have. That next superstar or guy locked in there.
Yeah, I think they got Tyler Flowers, right? I think is the.
And I think Travis d'Arnaud.
And d'Arnaud, yeah,
so,
that's right.
They can really jump in there and solidify that whole team as well. So, there's gonna be a lot of teams interested in him. But I think the Phillies. I think it's a high percentage he goes back to the Phillies just because what the Phillies had to give up to get him and what they really didn't do yet with him.
Yeah, I agree. All right, well, the next guy I want to talk about, switch up a little bit to a pitcher, is Trevor Bauer. Another about 30-year-old guy coming into a year where I think what he does this year matters a lot. I think he's shown us that he can really pitch his ass off, and he had about a 2-something ERA about 2 years ago. I think last year he pitched awful coming over to the Reds. He didn't pitch great overall in the last year. I think he had a 4-something ERA. So he's got a lot to prove this year, and it's as a contract year, it's a lot not just to prove for maybe just to help this team win, but it's going to be a lot for him, just for himself to help his, get as most money as he can, get the most years as he can, because he could probably get like a 4 to 6 year contract, probably get paid pretty well. He's a solid 2 or 3 guy. I don't really see him going over and being an ace anywhere. I think he could have ace stuff. He's shown that he can pitch really well, but I don't see him going into being an ace anywhere unless it's a team that's building. I can see him. I think it would make sense for the Reds to re-sign him because they would have a really good rotation at that point. I think that with having a top 3 guy, Luis Castillo, Sonny Gray, and him is really that's a 3-headed monster out there. You could really have a good rotation, especially going into the playoffs. You have 3 guys that can win you 3 big playoff games. Yeah, I mean, I think that he's probably one of the more interesting guys to look at because I think you kind of know what you're getting out of Real Muto and Springer at this point, barring some injuries with Springer. But Trevor Bauer, he sort of seems to like not flip flop, but he kind of ebbs and flows this season. You don't really know if you're going to get a really good start out of him. He might blow up a little bit. He's got a little bit of an attitude problem. Is something that could be something to think about, as far as in the clubhouse and to the media and stuff like that. So I think he's one of the more interesting free agents coming up. And I think you would call him probably top two, top three, probably number one pitching free agent that's coming up here. I mean, there's not many more, there's maybe one other guy, two other guys like him,
Yeah, he's definitely, top three, top four, top five, starting pitchers in the free agent class, obviously. But it's a guy that if I was, looking as a GM or a team, that I would kind of stay clear of, really, because of the fact that he really can't put together a good year consistently, or a full year. Has had some injuries, but also, it's just the way he goes about himself with, some of the stuff he does off the field. He had that drone injury in the playoffs, but the way he came up with that Mike Trout steroid thing, then backtracked that the next day. He just says some stuff that's a little outlandish, and goes at some of the owners and stuff. And the owners do deserve some bad talk to him, I guess you could say. But at some point, it's they're paying you.
Yeah, there's only so much.
Yeah. So, but he does say some outlandish things at times, and he did say that he was only signing 1-year deals the rest of his career, which I would, right there, he would be off my list.
Yeah.
If you can't sign a 2-year deal with an option, at least something like that at his age, then what am I gonna keep you around for? If it's gonna take you half a year to get used to your team, and that's the case so far with Cincinnati because he had a bad half a year. So if it takes you half a year to get used to your team, then I'm only gonna get 1.5 year out of you, and who knows what you're gonna say or do or cause a problem, whatever is gonna pop up. So I don't think he's worth at that point, but he's gonna get signed. I just don't think obviously he said he wanted a 1-year deal, but someone to jump in. There's a lot of teams that are going to be interested in him. It's just going to be interesting, like I said, with some of the stuff he said and what he said he wants with the 1-year deals. So we'll see. One of the better pitchers on the free agent market and has potential to be really good still. Just a lot of question marks going into the offseason with him.
Yeah, for sure.
So next guy I want to talk about is at one of the most premier positions, and that's Marcus Semien for the A's. Again, another guy, 30 years old. A couple years ago, defensively, he was awful.
Yeah.
He just had a bad defensively. He was just bad.
Mm-hmm.
But offensively, he's always kind of been good. And last year, especially, or the year before, he's been good. Offensively, really good. Last year, he was phenomenal. Power, average, on base, stuff like that. Just a great player. His defense was really good last year. And like I said, he's at one of the most premier positions. With a lot of teams having young shortstops, and that's kind of being taken over the league. You got to think who's going to be in the shortstop market. But with a guy like this, who's last year he was third in WAR.
Yeah.
He's one of the best players in baseball last year. He was the third best wins above replacement. So there you go. He's hard to take that away from him.
Yeah.
He's such a great player no one talks about with such a team. That no one ever talks about the A's. So he just kind of all fits in there. So I think he'll go back to the A's. The big number is going to be, can he continue to hit? Can his defense stay at that higher level? And with the other shortstops coming up free agency like Lindor, Correa, Baez, Seager, Story coming up next year, does the team jump in and give him a 4 or 5 year deal worth a lot of money? Or someone come in and move him to second base or third base because he's going to have the ability to do that.
Yeah.
He's that good of a player. He can do that. But he's a great player. I like Marcus Semien. I think he fits the A's. I think he's staying. I think he'll give them benefit of doubt for really turning his career around. Maybe a little bit of a hometown marker. I think he really fits out there. So I think he'll stay out there. But obviously, there's going to be other teams that jump in. Maybe the Indians, they lose Lindor. You get a guy like this who might be cheaper. Maybe the Astros lose a guy like Correa, but get a guy who's a little bit cheaper than Semien. I'm not saying I think Semien could get one of those top deals. It's just that it's most likely he's a touch older. He might not quite get that much money compared to those guys. So he might be able to save a little bit of money and get this really, if not a better player, the same player in some of those guys.
Yeah.
So we'll see where he goes, but I think he's staying with the A's.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I think that he should and probably will stay with the A's. I think that it would benefit the A's a lot to have a guy like that. A team that notoriously won't They're notoriously the money ball, won't dole out the money to these big guys and try to get rid of them before they have the big contract and kind of recycle prospects and see what they can get out of them. But I think it would benefit both parties to have a big contract. I think he should command a big payday. I think, like you said, he was top 3 in MVP voting, top 3 in WAR. I think he had like a 7-point-something WAR. He was just fantastic last year, hitting, defense, and you can see that there's growth there. It doesn't seem to be a regression. There seems to be growth. So it's interesting to see this season what he does, because I think even if he just has a above average year, he doesn't bat quite what he did last year, I think that he'll get even still a big contract. I don't think it'll change much. Possible landing spots is tough to say because a lot of teams have, if not their shortstop, they have their guy coming up. There's a lot of teams out there that don't want to necessarily give up on the guy that hasn't even gotten a shot yet. Maybe it's potential, like you said. Maybe he can move positions. Maybe he'd be willing to move second, third, something like that. I think he's got the arm for third base, and he played, he plays a middle infield position, so second base I don't think is an outlandish thought. But I like Simeon a lot. I think he's a great player. He seems like a great dude. He fits the Oakland player, the player base well there, and I think that it would benefit both parties for him to stay. I think that he'll definitely command a lot of attention. He could even maybe leapfrog some of these guys and command the most attention on the market if he has a really good, because there's a lot of players that have a potential to have a really good season this season. Next on my list, I got another pitcher here, kind of similar vein to Trevor Bauer, is Marcus Stroman. Marcus Stroman's a guy that I personally have grown to like a lot. I think he is a really good potential big game pitcher. I think that he has a potential to get a pretty sizable contract. I don't think he's going to really break the bank. I think he'll get a pretty good contract. So maybe size comparison to what Trevor Bauer will get, maybe a little smaller. Right now, I think he fits the Mets really well. I think he fits a team that's really competitive because he's a competitive guy. Even if the team's down, like he was on the Blue Jays. They weren't, sometimes they really weren't doing anything, and the guy went out there like they were getting him into the playoffs. So I do respect that out of him. He's got a fiery attitude. I think that there's a lot of landing spots for him. Mets, he could easily sign. I think that would be smart for the Mets to have a kind of a mid-tier guy and not necessarily an ace, DeGrom caliber player. I think the Yankees are a possible landing spot. I know he wanted to go to New York. Maybe not necessarily the New York he went to was his most desirable landing spot. So the Yankees, with losing 2 starters, is a possibility. But there's a lot of teams out there that could use a middle, 2 really good, 3-man or maybe even a 2-man on some teams. And I like Stroman a lot, so I think that he could really do well. Maybe on another team, or I think he'll do well in free agency as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's only 29 years old, so he's on the right side of 30 here.
Yeah.
But, he hasn't really pitched in big moments yet, pitching with the Blue Jays, and then going over to the Mets. He really hasn't had a chance really to get into that big game. He showed it in the World Baseball Classic the 1 year, but he's not really, haven't really proved it in the MLB yet. Hasn't really had a chance. That's why. Yeah. But he's another one, kind of like Bauer, where, he's had some injuries past, and he has too many of those, 5-run, 6-run starts. He has 4, 5, 6 of them a year, and inflates his ERA. His ERA is always up, mid 3s, high 3s. Yeah. Which isn't bad, but he just doesn't have that ace. He's really not going to be your ace. He's going to be like a 2, maybe 3-man. Yeah. Doesn't really strike out a lot of guys, so he kind of needs a great defense, which Toronto never really had when he was there. And the Mets, as of right now, don't really have a great defense. So he's in a weird spot there. Obviously, he loves the AL East, or he loves to be on the East Coast, I should say. He pitched in the AL East, so he's battle tested out there. Yeah, loving the AL, loving the East, loving the East Coast. I think, being with the Mets, he'll probably want to stay there. But I think there's a few teams out west who would really fit with. One being the A's. I think the A's would jump in on him. The Angels. That's a guy the Angels they definitely need pitching, so he'd be a great fit there. And I think another team could be the Padres, because they've been looking to get pitchers for years now, and they just couldn't quite get a pitcher, quite get that big name pitcher to come over and pitch for him. But he might, give him a little money, bring him out there with some of that younger guys, some of the guys they signed recently, traded for. That's a good team, so I think he'd fit in there. But he really likes the East Coast, so I think he'll stay with the Mets. I think he's got some great fits out west. So if he really wants to get out there, I think that's really where he will, put up better numbers out west with some of those teams.
Yeah, I agree.
So the next guy, I want to talk about is Marcell Ozuna.
Mm-hmm.
30 years old. He came up really young with the Marlins. He was a high potential guy. He's got great power. He signed a 1-year deal with the Braves, so he's on a great team this year to really boost his offseason price tag. Again, with Mookie Betts gone, he's probably, if not one, he's two best outfielder out there.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to be able to, kind of command a good price tag. Great power, great hitter, hits the ball hard.
Yeah.
Hard hit percentage, he's one of the top guys. Exit velocity, he's one of the top guys. A little bit of luck, he'll have even better years. Because he's always been, hard hit percentage is always high, but he's always been like batted balls in play and stuff like that. He's always kind of been, it shows him that he is a bad luck hitter. Last year he had a pretty good year going. He got hurt, but he had a bunch of home runs. His defense is not great. He's probably about average, maybe a little below average. Well, offensively, he's fantastic. So if the NL completely adopts the DH, he has a great chance to go and really compete for one of these teams. Like, the Braves are probably going to use him as DH a lot this year.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, he's just got great power. He's a great hitter. His luck's going to change a little bit. And if he can just get that batted balls, average up a little bit with just some of his luck, he'll be a really good player. Maybe close to 300 with 30, 40 home runs. Drives a lot of runs. And he's just, I always liked him. I always liked watching him play, and I always thought he was going to be really, really good. So we'll see if we can get a couple-year contract here. Could easily stay with the Braves. And then whoever kind of loses out on the outfield chase. Mookie Betts already gone. If wherever Springer goes, maybe Ozuna goes to the Astros. It's whoever's going to lose out on that deal, that Astro deal. That's probably where he's going to go. So if you don't get Springer, you didn't get Betts, you can get Ozuna. So he's going to have a lot of chances to sign somewhere this offseason. And I think he's going to be one of the higher up guys to go get. I think he's just a fantastic offensive player.
Yeah, he's a beast. He's got a lot of power. He's got a lot of potential. He's a hot and cold kind of guy. But when he's hot, he almost reminds me of like Alfonso Soriano when he was hot. He's like the best player in baseball. I think he's defensively, I think he's good. I think that his bat is what carries him a lot, like his value. I think his bat carries his value a lot. But I think that, like you said, with the DH and the NL, I think that's going to help a lot if that stays. Because then, you've got the option, the AL or the NL, to go and DH somewhere or be like that fourth outfielder that DHs and kind of flip-flops in and out of the outfield. So I think that he's going to probably, like you said, I think he's probably top 2, top 3 outfielders after Springer's gone. I think the attention shifts to him, depending on obviously what Castellanos does with his contract. But I think that I think he's a little underrated. I think that people don't even really appreciate really his talent. It was surprising how long it took for him to get signed on the Braves here. It was weird. It didn't make any sense to me. It kind of similar to like LeMahieu, how long it took for him to get signed, how good of a player he is. I think it's kind of it reflects how the market speaks sometimes. There's just players that just fall through the cracks that really there's no reason they do fall through the cracks. So we'll see. I think Marcell Ozuna is going to get a pretty solid contract, maybe 3-4-year deal, something like that. He could also get a big deal. You never know, depending on where the market goes. But he's a fantastic player, and I look forward to seeing him, seeing what he does in the future here.
Yeah.
The next player I got is a really good offensive player, Justin Turner, for the Dodgers. And here's a guy who I think, you talk about underrated, I think that he's probably the most underrated Dodgers hitter in that lineup, or one of. I think that he brings a lot of talent on the field. I think he's a good defender. I think that he's really solid in the middle of that lineup. I think that he's really clutch. I think that he has a big presence to the fan base and the clubhouse and all that. I think that he's just he's almost got that X factor. I think in that regard he's really valuable. He's a little bit on the older side. He's going to be more of like a veteran presence if he gets signed on the free agency. So I don't think he'll command like a ridiculous contract. Maybe a moderate, 3-year deal. Maybe he goes till he's 38 or 39, whatever. I think he's 35, 36 years old. So I think that he'll be a veteran presence on a team. He could maybe even switch over to be a DH. That's another guy that could benefit if the NL keeps that DH thing going. I think he can really benefit in either league in that case. I think he could just be a veteran guy in the clubhouse, teaching young guys hitting and fielding, and just kind of, the young guys can pick his brain. So I think that he's a really valuable candidate, and I think that Justin Turner almost gets like glossed over when we talk about the great players in the league. And I think he gets glossed over even just on his own team, on the Dodgers. So we'll see what happens to him. I think he's going to command some attention on the free agent market as a veteran guy.
Yeah, he's mid-30s, 35, 36 years old. I think he's the most important offensive player in the Dodgers lineup. I think when Justin Turner misses those games, he has had an injury history. It really takes a toll on that lineup. It doesn't. It doesn't split that lineup up because they have a lot of lefties.
Mm-hmm.
So him being a righty really splits it up. But he's just he puts the ball in play. He has to strike out a lot. He's got power. Drives and runs. So I think he's just the most important to that lineup. When he's there, when he's hitting good, the Dodgers are really good. When he's struggling, the team's not nearly as good offensively.
Yep.
Defensively, he's okay. He's not great, but he can play multiple positions. He can play third, second, maybe first. So that helps him. I could see him going back to Dodgers, finishing his career there just because of his impact. But also I could see him going and maybe being a veteran leader, like you said. Maybe to a team like the A's. I think he'd fit right in with the A's over there. Filling in, DHing. Maybe a young team picks him up. Maybe someone like the Tigers. We kind of help teach the young guys and grow them. A team like the Pirates, who you could really teach some of them young guys like Brian Hayes. So there's a bunch of teams that he could really jump to. Maybe he ends up going back to the Mets where he kind of really got his major league start. But I think there's a good chance he just stays where he's at. But yeah, definitely one of the best offensive players, really in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely older, great player, consistent. Just has some injuries. He is older, but his importance in that Dodgers lineup is unmatched.
Oh yeah, I agree.
So the next guy I want to talk about is probably one of the top 5 pure hitters in all of baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about him quite a bit throughout our episodes, and that's Lepre. Obviously, he can play anywhere in the infield, and he's multiple Gold Glover at second base, so that's fine. But he can also be a Gold Glover really anywhere in that infield.
Yeah. First,
third base. Give him a little bit of time to kind of adapt, especially at first base. He struggled to touch with the Yankees that 1 year, or I should say last year. But he's a fantastic player.
Yeah.
Doesn't say anything. You don't even know he's on your team until you realize he's batting 340 and he's leading your team in RBIs and batting 600 with guys in running the scoring position. Just a fantastic player all around. What he meant to the Yankees was unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
And I said when he got signed that he was going to be the best hitter they had because of his ability to hit the ball the opposite field and just hit the ball. They had too many strikeout guys, and the whole league's like that, a bunch of strikeout guys. Well, he's a 330, 340 hitter who just makes contact. You can't shift him. The big moment never gets to him.
Mm-hmm.
He's always cool. Never see him screaming or going crazy. He's just smooth.
Yeah, for sure.
He's a fantastic player. He got that 2-year, $24 million deal. He outplayed that already in 1 year.
Oh, yeah.
But we'll see, especially his offensive, his home runs went up a little bit. I think the ballpark and the stadium helped him a little bit. You could bet him anywhere.
Yeah.
First, second, third, fourth. You could bet him anywhere in the top 4 or 5 hitters and be fine with it.
Mm.
So I think the Yankees are going to sign him to a 4, 5, 6 year deal just because how important he is to them, how they realize that he could play multiple positions, and he's a really different type of hitter than they have. I could see him leaving though. I could see him where the Yankees kind of go, we got young guys, and just kind of let him go. But I just don't think that's going to happen. I think his impact and what he did for the Yankees, he'll have to get signed. I think he'll get a 4-year deal, something like that. Maybe like a 3-year deal with a couple options. But what a fantastic player, and I think he'll get. Yankees should give him a good amount of money, especially because you got to almost pay back a little bit of the money that you didn't pay him the first 2 years.
Yeah.
He already played fantastic. He batted 330. He's just there's not much else you could say about him. He's just a great player. He's one of the best hitters, and I love watching him. I always liked him. He went to Colorado. I didn't understand how he didn't get signed.
Yeah.
Last year, till late. He won the batting title, 348, Gold Glove. People just didn't care, I guess, or they didn't really look at him. They just said, Colorado, but it made no sense because his offensive power went up leaving Colorado. So
yeah,
that's shows you where that is. But fantastic player, and you can't go wrong. I think the Yankees got to keep him, which most of these guys we have talked about, they kind of almost seem that they have to stay at their team. Yeah, I can't even see where he could go because I just don't see him leaving the Yankees.
Yeah, I can't see him leaving the Yankees, and I don't want to see him leave the Yankees personally. I think that he fits that lineup perfectly. I think he fits the environment perfectly. He really seems to handle New York well. He just quietly goes about his business. You don't ever hear about him doing anything crazy. You don't even hear from him when he's on the field. No. So he's a guy who can play everywhere. You'd like to have him stick at one position. That's ideal. But you need him to play first. You need him to play third, wherever you want to throw him. You could bat him anywhere in the lineup. He don't care. He'll still produce. He's really a marvel when you watch him play. Yeah. And I think that he, like you said, he's outplayed his contract. I think that he deserves more. The way he's been playing, I think he deserves whatever he wants. I think that he's going to get a sizable contract, like you said, like 4 years, 5 years, maybe even 6 years. I think he's on the other side of 30, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, 32. Yeah, I mean, he can. The thing with him is you can give him that long contract, and maybe it gets cheaper at the end of his contract. You really pay him up front, but he doesn't care.
No.
If he starts struggling or if he gets older and he kind of starts, he'll be the backup.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I just see with him too, with not being a big power guy, almost like a pitcher, not really being a big power pitcher. They last longer. You can kind of just be that base hit guy. He'll lose a little bit of power, but he can still be that base hit guy and still have a productive average when he gets older, when he gets to the mid-high 30s. You see a lot more guys who can be base hit hitters last longer. I know, you can see Tony Gwynn, Nitro, and those are some of the greatest who ever played. Mm-hmm. But, the power hitters, it's hard to really continue to have 30 home run power, 40 home run power when you're late 30s.
Yeah.
It could be done, but I think it's a lot easier to just be that base hit guy, no shift against you. Like I said, he's versatile. We know. Just a fantastic player. I think the Yankees got to keep him, and maybe even overpay for him for the next couple of years because how good he's going to be, and then worry about that last year or two. Pay him a little bit, even not be as great as he was, but you got those first couple of years out of him.
Yeah. I think if you get like 2 or 3 more years that he's having here, or even say he bats 300, he doesn't have to bat 330, 340. Say he bats 300 and he hits 15, 20 home runs. That's fine with me. And he's in the lineup. He's versatile, and he's really just getting the job done. He's affecting the whole team.
Yeah, I mean he's like he's a cool, calm guy in the Bronx Zoo kind of thing. You know, almost like the old Yankees where you had kind of Billy Martin and Reggie Jackson fighting like the one scene everyone knows. Mm-hmm. And you had kind of like Elston Howard just sitting there, just breaking it up, just sliding his 6'5" body in there and just breaking it up, just that quiet. That's like DJ LeMahieu, Judge and Sanchez and Torres, all these big guys. Garrett Cole, it was craziness going on, and then you got him, who's probably one of their best players, if not their best player. Mm-hmm. He doesn't say a word. You don't even know he's there. He's like, "Who is this guy?" Well, that's their best player. Don't worry about him.
Yeah.
So he just fits in so well. You just gotta love him.
Yeah, whatever team he's on, you gotta love him. Yeah. All right, the last guy that I want to talk about that I'd like to bring up is Kirby Yates. He's probably going to be the top reliever that's going to be on the market, top 2. I think that he's a fantastic pitcher. I think that he's just gotten better with age, it seems. I think he fits the Padres well, so I could see a reunion there. I don't know how big of a contract he'll get. I think he'll get a pretty sizable. I don't think he'll get like an Aroldis Chapman deal. Does he have the talent to do it? I think so, but I don't know if the market will speak that way. Especially, I think he is a little older, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll see what he gets. Maybe he could get like a 3-year deal. 3-year, maybe, obviously quite a bit of money, the way they throw out money in the MLB. But I think he'll probably command a 3-year deal. You could really, a guy like him, you could see really a reliever going anywhere. Because that was, even if a team doesn't need a closer, you could always use a setup man or a 7th inning guy, an 8th inning guy. But I think that what the Padres need is to keep a guy like that around, because the Padres seem to always be just that little bit away from being really good. And I think having an all-star lockdown closer really goes a long way, especially a guy who had like a 1-something ERA. Say he's even decent this year as a 2.5 ERA or something like that. I mean, that's still great. That's good production out of your closer. So I like Kirby Yates a lot, and I think that he's probably going to be the top reliever on the market. I think for good reason. Him and Liam Hendricks, I think, would be the top 2 guys. So, yeah, I mean, Kirby Yates is someone to watch for sure, especially out of that the reliever market.
Yeah, obviously one of the best relievers last year in all baseball. If not, you can make the case he was the best. With the Padres getting better, that should help his stats. Tommy Pham, getting Emilio Pagan, some of the young guys getting better. Tatis is going to be up for the full year. So, I mean, they're going to get better. So his stats should go up. Obviously, in a contract year, I could easily see the Padres, trading him away to get the prospects. Almost did what the Yankees did, trade Chapman away and then sign him back. I can see the Padres doing that. Be like, hey, we'll trade you away, get a couple prospects or something, and bring you back next year. Yeah. So you get, a double down. We're not going to win this year, but maybe we could win the next 2-3 years with you.
Yeah.
So I can see them doing something like that, but definitely one of the best pitchers, relievers in baseball. Seeing with the Padres, I don't see them trading in division with them. So, Dodgers are out there. Yeah. But maybe the Cardinals jump in. Maybe the A's jump in. Something like that. Maybe the White Sox get involved. Mm-hmm. and really kind of help them because they have Alex Colomé and some other guys out there. You get Kirby Yates. I mean, that just really solidifies that.
Yeah, that's big.
Maybe Boston jumps in because they don't have really any pitching across the board. So maybe they jump in, get that, figured out. Maybe even Toronto. You never know, especially with the expanded playoffs. But I like to see him getting traded. But I can also see him sticking with the Padres, like I said, with the expanded playoffs. But he's definitely one of the best relievers in baseball, and he's fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. He's one of the best right now.
So the last guy I'm going to talk about is a pitcher, and that's Tanaka. I know that's another Yankee. I usually don't go too much with the Yankees, but 32 years old, just consistent. It's as simple as it is. He's just consistent. Not a big velocity guy, so he lost a little bit, but that's not going to hurt him too much because, like I said, he's not a big velocity guy. He does have that partial UCL tear, so that might scare a little bit teams away. He's always like a mid-high threes, maybe low fours, which is fine. So he's going to be like a three-man. Maybe a two-man. Matters how good he's going. But if you need a big game, that's your guy.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's shown that with the Yankees for the years he's been there.
Oh, yeah.
Even that one year, he had a really bad year going. End of the year came, boom, 7 shutout innings against Boston. Another real great start. And then gets to the playoffs and had a couple good starts. He just always pitches big and always pitches good in the big games, which is what you want. Consistent, he's going to get you innings. He's going to put up quality starts. He's going to keep you in games.
Yep.
So just a good pitcher to get. I think the Yankees keep him. I think another one, he just kind of fits with the Yankees. He just really likes the New York, really likes that team. I think he really just fits in well. But, he's a guy who's going to go, if he does leave the Yankees, he'll go to a team, a contending team, and really be a big part of it. Maybe a team like the White Sox, something like that who needs pitching. Just someone who needs that consistent guy who's just going to pitch in big games. And that's who he's going to be. Maybe the Cubs, someone like that who can get involved. But just a great pitcher, and he's been great with the Yankees, and should be exciting. I don't think he'll get a real big deal, but you can see him getting like a 2-3 year deal, and then maybe like an option year, something like that, brings him to like his mid-30s. Yeah. And then you see go from there. But just really good pitcher, just consistent, and that's all you can really ask for.
Yeah, that's I always love Tanaka for that reason. He may not be the most flashy or the most dominant guy on the team, for sure. I think he had 1 year at a 5 ERA or something like that. A really rough year. But like you said, playoff comes, he's the guy. He's the one you want to give the ball to. Game 1, Game 2, Game 3, Game 4, Game 7. It doesn't matter. He's going to go out there and give you a good outing. He may not strike out a bunch. He may not have like a Garrett Cole, like a 12 strikeout performance. He may not go the distance all the time.
But he does at times. With that splitter, when that splitter's on, and he also throws like 5-6 pitches, he could do what he wants out there.
Yeah.
Sometimes he goes 5-6 no hit innings.
Yeah.
He's just he's hard to hit.
Yeah, because you gotta, when you're up at the plate, you're guessing so much. Is the ball going to be dropped? Is it going to fall off the table for me? Is it going to go all the way, the outside part of the box? Where's it going?
Yeah, and he's a pretty good pitcher, a pretty good fielder on the mound there.
Yeah.
So you can bunt. He's just really good there too, which really helps. Obviously. Saves himself some runs and some base runners.
Yeah.
But he's just, like I said, he's just consistent. And I think if there's one guy who really, I feel like there's this one guy who really learned from CC. I think it's him.
Yeah.
Like I said, out of the rotation, really learned from him. I feel like it'd be Tanaka.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like he took that. He's gonna take that, the energy. Tanaka's fierce on the mound. So I feel like he took that CC fierceness, but he took the, fooling around the dugout. You kind of see it. But I feel like he knows how to pitch. And CC, I think, was a big part of that because CC had to learn how to pitch after not being, really a pitcher, just a thrower.
Yeah.
So I feel like he really got that, and I think he'll be one of the leaders of that team. So I think the Yankees would be smart to keep him, kind of like they did with Gardner.
Yeah.
We kind of let him feel it out there, but you kind of know you're going to bring him back. I think that's what they'll maybe do with Tanaka, but maybe give him like a 2-3 year deal.
Yeah, I could see him being a guy the Yankees would. He'd be one of the top guys they'd want to look at first before they start to look elsewhere. Yeah. So we'll see.
So, after that, there's a bunch of other free agents we can mention here. Some big ones, but they have opt-out years they have to worry about.
Yeah.
There's Stanton. He's an opt-out. Castellanos, JD Martinez. Those are obviously 3 of the best hitters in baseball, but they have an opt-out. So they're gonna, Stanton, is he gonna opt out all that money? I don't know. Especially he really likes New York too. So is he gonna opt out? I don't know.
Yeah.
JD Martinez, is he gonna opt out? Nick Castellanos, he might opt out.
He could.
But you never know. So that's why we haven't really mentioned those guys on this list because you don't really know what you're going to get out of them.
Yeah.
Other than those guys, you got guys like Mike Minor, Jake Odorizzi, who had a really good year last year.
Mm-hmm.
Robbie Ray, who's just got a lot of potential. He's always in the trade block, so we'll see what happens there.
Yep.
Andrelton Simmons, offensively, he's came alive last couple of years. Defensively, he's one of the best we've seen probably the last 20 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Didi Gregorius had a bad year at the Yankees last year because of Tommy John. Nice with the Philly, another offensive ballpark and offensive team. He should be able to bounce back and, command a couple year deal.
Yep.
Quintana, consistent lefty, kind of like Tanaka. Maybe a little bit higher ERA, more to low fours, but just consistent inning eater.
Yep.
James Paxton, strong guy. He's really could be an ace, really a really strong number 2 guy. Shown last year he could pitch in big games. Michael Brantley, kind of like LeMahieu, just consistent, smooth, can really hit. Going to be a 300 hitter, an average defender, makes some big plays like you seen last year in the playoffs.
Yep. So
he's a really good player. You see where he goes. I think the Astros would be smart to keep him. Then you got guys like Descafani, another one who's like a 3-4 man, but just consistent. He's had some injuries, but when he's going, he's pretty good.
Yeah, he is.
So there's a bunch of guys going to be free agents this year. Liam Hendricks, you mentioned before. But, I mean, a lot of these guys they're big impact players.
Mm-hmm.
They leave their teams, it's going to impact them, and wherever they go, they're going to have big impacts.
Yeah.
So the offseason is definitely going to have a big effect on the next couple of years. But this year itself, why we brought it up was because of 60 games, you don't know what you're going to, you don't know what you're bidding on essentially.
Yeah.
If you're bidding on Real Muto, you only had 5 home runs this year. You go, well, do we project that if we had another 80 games, 90 games he played, does he project to have 15, 20 home runs, or do we kind of? So you're in that weird spot. So this year should really have a weird effect on the offseason. And then pitchers, they might only pitch 80, 100 innings this year.
Mm-hmm.
So you can almost bid higher on them next year, knowing that their arm's not, 300 innings going through the playoffs. So you can almost bid more on them.
Mm-hmm.
But do you? So it's going to be a weird, offseason, especially with the CBA coming up too.
Yeah.
So you don't really know how the free agency is going to go. But it should be exciting, especially with some of these real big names and some of these real big characters on the list that we mentioned.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of those guys should maybe even command more attention that we're even giving them credit for. Like guys like Andrelton Simmons, who can really hit, has shown that he can really hit, and he can of course field. Paxton could be a top tier. He has top tier stuff sometimes, so he could be a guy that could get a lot of attention. Liam Hendricks, I mean, he had a tremendous season last season. So these are guys that we're not, that aren't just getting thrown out there. They're still like really viable, really great players. So we'll see what happens with those guys. Other than the free agent stuff we want to talk about, we had just some other new news and noteworthy stuff that we want to talk about was where the Blue Jays are really going to be. I mean, where is opening days here, and where are they playing? It's amazing that they were at first they were going to play in Pittsburgh, and then the Pittsburgh township or whatever decided that shot it down. Now it's looking like Baltimore's the next city up that they're looking to play at. So we'll see what Baltimore says. As of right now, as of recording, we're not sure where that's at. And the other big news another big thing we wanted to re-record for was that the MLB just announced that there's going to be extended playoffs. I mean, that's something that we theorized and thought was already a foregone conclusion. We were going to have 10 teams, but now it's up to 16 teams. So, I mean, I know you have an opinion on that. So what do you think?
And, especially with the Blue Jays thing, that just blows my mind. Opening days here. It's like, where are you playing? We're playing home tomorrow. Oh, so you're in Toronto? No. So you're in Pittsburgh? No.
Guess
Florida?
again.
No. Buffalo? Nope. Where are you playing? I don't know. So they're going to have no home games, no real official home games. So they're going to play in Camden Yards. They talked about Yankee Stadium possibility, playing some games there. So that's crazy.
Yeah.
Opening days here. And we don't have where they're playing. And then the playoffs, you have a month and a half, whatever it was. It's been like a month and a half since they announced the deal to bring baseball back. And we wait till 3 hours before opening the first pitch to decide, let's expand the playoffs.
Yeah.
Someone I think brought up to the owners or something that somewhere they're like, money.
Yeah.
So let's bring playoffs. They're like, we're in.
Yeah.
So I don't know what happened. That changes everything.
Oh, yeah.
Changes everything. Because now you're a team, it's like, should we put a guy on the injury list? Sure. We got 6 more teams making the playoffs. Should we make a trade now? Sure. We're in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Changes everything.
Mm-hmm.
Which is going to change some of this offseason, too, because some of these guys might get traded, might not get traded. So it's going to change a lot of things. It's crazy. I'm not a big fan, especially the late addition to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Literally 3 hours before the opening pitch, and we changed the whole season.
Mm-hmm.
And especially the way they're going to do it, where you get to pick who you want to play, and like a TV show almost, where you get to pick come on, just let them play. if you want to add 2 more teams, I was in for. If you want to add 16, have 16, I wouldn't have been a big fan of. But hey, whatever. But now you're just making it like a gimmick.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of that. But expanded playoffs I think makes sense, especially the possibility of fans later in the year get some of that money back, get some of that revenue back, which is a great idea. I just am not a big fan of the way they're doing it, especially the late addition to it. So yeah, it just makes sense. Just almost like you cleared all of it. You only had one big thing, which obviously the Blue Jays having an issue, but you can't really blame baseball for that. You cleared all that crap. You got back. You're the first team back, first sport back, and then right as the brink of coming back, you're like, let's change things.
Yeah,
it just doesn't make sense.
I know.
It just doesn't make sense, And people really talk about baseball being bad with the way they came back, but look at football having some issues. NHL kind of being real quiet about their things, kind of have some issues. NBA had some issues there.
Yeah.
So I think baseball's really got beat down for it, but I think everyone else's issues are starting to come out now.
Yeah.
But then they just made this. I don't think it's going to really kind of split baseball up. Some people are going to like it, especially if you're a lower team, you're going to really like it. But I just don't like the gimmick.
Yeah.
I picked these guys. I picked that guy.
Yeah.
I want to beat that guy up. I want to face this guy. It just doesn't make sense. It's good for the good teams. They make the playoffs.
Oh yeah.
If you're the Yankees, you're the Dodgers, something like that, the Braves. You're in the playoffs now. You should be.
Yeah.
I shouldn't guarantee. You're not guaranteed nothing, but
you might as well guarantee it.
500, you might be 12th best team. You might finish 5 games under. You're in the playoffs.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So it's gonna be crazy. I just don't like the gimmicky.
Yeah, the selection stuff.
And the lateness of it. But baseball's back. Opening day we're recording on opening day right now. So you can't really complain. Baseball is back. We're gonna watch some baseball, and that's all you have to worry about.
Yeah, that's all I'm worried about now is considering all the problems that the other sports have had and all the problems that MLB has had. They might have had the worst, most glamorized problems. We're here and we're playing games, and that's just that is a victory, and I'm happy to see it.
Yeah. So to go along with our opening day here episode, the trivia question. And the trivia question this week is, who was the first U.S. president to throw out the official first pitch of a professional baseball game? And that was on April 14th, 1910, at National Stadium, the original National Stadium in D.C. And that was William Howard Taft. So I think that, I don't know exactly if he was a huge baseball fan or if he just wanted to try using that to get away from the fact that he was, considered the fat president who got stuck in the bathtub.
Yeah.
And I'm not quite sure if he wanted to use that. Like, I could throw a ball, watch.
Yeah.
So remember you used that? Yeah. Not the bathtub.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he used that, but I thought it was, good. Obviously, opening days today. Thank God. And they're playing in D.C. So why not throw out the first president? And where he threw it was in D.C. So it just made sense.
Yeah.
So it was William Taft on April 14th, 1910, first president throw out the first pitch. So
yeah, that's cool little piece of trivia, especially that was a long time ago. It's over 100 years ago now. It's hard to believe.
And almost every president after that threw out a first pitch at some point.
Yeah, which is cool too.
It kind of started a whole tradition, and especially George Bush had one of the most famous first pitches, so it kind of started a whole tradition. So you could thank Taft for that.
Cool. All right. Well, do you have any other last notes, thoughts, players, anything you forgot, anything you want to mention?
No, just that baseball's on today and on every other day for the foreseeable future, hopefully until late October, and then we'll worry about next year like we just talked about. But baseball's on opening day, so you gotta love that, and looking forward to watching some baseball finally.
Yeah, for sure. Just a quick note before we go. Apologize for the later episode. We're a day late on this, but we figured with so much news going on in the opening day, we wanted to have a little bit more relevant content. The content that we had before was not updated at all, and it would have been completely different without the Mookie Betts news and all that stuff. So we just wanted to bring you a little bit updated stuff. We don't plan on being late or missing weeks, really. So just excuse the 1 day lateness from us, and just enjoy opening day. When this goes up, we'll have already seen some baseball, and there will be more games happening. So enjoy that. Before we go, a note, you can listen to this podcast on Apple Podcasts. You can listen to it on Spotify and Google Podcasts. You can also catch us on our website, screwball.podbean.com. You can catch all our episodes there. You can also follow me on Twitter at RealMikeLepre. You can follow me on Instagram at Mike Lepre.
And you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at FDubs10.
You can follow our official Screwball Twitter at ScrewballPod. You can follow our official Screwball Facebook at ScrewballPod, no E in Screw. And that's it from us, guys. We'll see you next week.
Yep. Take care.